I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. We've got an action-packed May here. As I've talked about a little bit before, we're going to quite a few living history events. And as part of this, I wanted to bring my wife on to talk a little bit about the behind the scenes and her experience of going to some of these events for the first time as a participant. We've day tripped since we were dating and since we've been married, but we've not had an opportunity to take the plunge and go together and become participants, be active historians or living historians at these events. And it just so happens that now we're bringing along our 2-year-old daughter, which brings with it, and with Caroline coming along, it brings a new set of challenges and a new set of experiences. So as a part of our ongoing mission here to get more people involved in muzzleloading and living history, I hope that you enjoy, and I hope you can take some notes here about this young family's experience and trials and tribulations, maybe even, of taking our entire family to a living history event and maybe start planning a little bit on your own. So we're coming back from Five Metals. This was your first overnight event, right?
Yes.
What do you think preparing for this weekend?
I thought it would be challenging, so I decided not to think about it too much because I didn't want to think myself out of it. And I know how much it means to you and how much you enjoy these events, and I want to support you. So I
appreciate that you're willing to suffer with me.
Well, I didn't know how much suffering there would be. I knew there'd be some amount of suffering.
Okay.
And so I thought, I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go. And once I'm in that car, I can't go back. So whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
But that sounds very pessimistic. But actually, I had a very good time.
Okay. There
was significantly less suffering than I anticipated.
So what is this suffering that you were concerned about?
So as I've gotten to know more about living history and the people that enjoy it, there is an element I've observed where some people really love to lean into the suffering. Like they want to kind of recreate those difficult conditions that our ancestors went through. There's probably multiple reasons. Challenge themselves to see if they can do it. To just have a more personal, more vivid experience of what that's like. Like, you know, you're reading a secondhand. It's kind of like you're getting it secondhand if you're reading someone's journal. And they're talking about, oh, I was cold, I was wet, I was hungry. But if you go out and you're cold and you're wet and you're hungry, that's very real. And so I think that, gives a depth to the experience. And then I don't know, is there another reason that people enjoy the suffering besides those two?
I think those are probably the big ones.
The big ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that connection to history.
Yeah.
And that I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. So I was pretty intimidated before to camp. I've never camped outside. Never slept outside ever. Not even like a modern camping thing.
Okay.
People go tents?
Yeah.
RVs,
yeah. Campers.
Campers. Well, I've lived in the country almost my entire life. So I'm just always I'm in a rural area with bugs and trees and critters and such.
You're not looking to go get more.
I never felt the impulse.
Okay.
I always felt pretty saturated.
Right.
I knew people that were really into camping, but I just never, not that I was opposed to it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't something that we did.
So what did you think then, what was going through your head on the car drive up? As you've never camped out before, you've been to 18th century events, like we've day tripped.
Yeah, we've done a lot of day trips at this point.
But life has just been kind of nuts. Mm-hmm. And it's been impossible for us to get out and do this until now. Mm-hmm. And we've got a 2-year-old that we're taking with us.
We have a 2-year-old.
So it's your first time.
Yeah.
You've got our 2-year-old in the back seat. What's going through your head on that car ride as we head up there?
Thinking low expectations. I'm just preparing myself to be too hot and too cold and maybe hungry sometimes. Definitely tired because I didn't know how well we'd be able to sleep in a tent on an air mattress. There was 3 of us, you, me, and the 2-year-old, all crammed together. So I thought, just make the best of it.
Yeah.
But we have friends there. I knew I'd have fun hanging out with the friends that we've made through living history. So I was excited for that. And I always just I like being at the events. I always enjoyed that. This was just a lot more.
Yeah.
You're just there for a lot longer time.
This is kind of endurance.
Yeah.
A day trip is a day trip. You go and you have fun, but this is kind of nonstop.
Right. Well, and also, I have rheumatoid arthritis, which sometimes I can be pretty sore and have pain in my joints. That can make doing stuff like this harder than for a person in very good health. So I was anticipating maybe being in some pain that way, but honestly, it wasn't that bad, really. I was pretty comfortable. I was more comfortable than I expected to be honest. The first night I had trouble sleeping because I was too cold.
We did not bring enough blankets. It was forecasted to be a hot weekend. I anticipated being too hot, and when I do things, when I go out on my own, I always try not to bring too much. I always try to bring a real minimal amount. That's something I'm walking away from this with, is when you're along and Caroline's along, I want to make sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. And we did a lot of things in the packing and planning process to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And try to make that easier on everybody.
Am I the reason that you got an air mattress?
Yes.
So you would just sleep on a blanket on the ground if it was just you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Well, I've got that. Unless it's like a super immersive event, I've got a little foam roll-out pad.
Oh.
For just a little padding.
Right. Okay.
But it's kind of fun to not do it. It's kind of fun to suffer.
So why do you get out of the suffering? What do you like?
It's just, I think it's neat to go through that.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with, they say that they're old timers now, but I grew up hearing a lot of great stories from the bicentennial forward of guys going out and hiking and doing all this in their period gear. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's kind of nostalgia to try to do what I always heard those stories about.
Okay.
So that's a lot of it for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so preparing for this, we picked up a used wedge tent. I talk about this in the video that we made to go along with our trip to 5 miles, but we picked up a used wedge from an estate sale of a group of reenactors. And I think that really helped us a lot. We had a full shelter then. We had some privacy, which was important.
Yeah, the tent was great.
Caroline did, and I want to bring this stuff up not to boast, but to if there's other young families out there, this is kind of what we did and what we learned, if that makes sense. And then we'll get back into a little bit more of the event and how this planning worked and didn't work. Mm-hmm. So we got the tent. Originally, we were going to do it in my Diamond Fly, but this sale came up and it really worked out great to pick up a bigger tent.
I'm glad that we didn't do it in the Diamond Fly because it stormed really bad one night. Yeah. It rained hard.
Yes.
That would have been tough with a 2-year-old.
It would have been real tough with a 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah, so that worked out.
And then as far as sleep comfort went, I wanted to make sure that we had the bed. We had an air mattress. So I picked up on sale just an REI brand air mattress. It's just a hand pump. It's nothing fancy. It gets us up off the ground and gets us a little comfortable, is how I looked at it.
Yeah.
And Caroline really liked it.
She loves the air mattress.
She's to the point where she's trying to jump, and so she was bouncing on it all weekend. And then as far as food goes, with Paisley's arthritis, we had to really plan our meals. There were several food vendors there that offered some great things, but we brought in food, and we just had a small old Coleman cooler that we used. We filled it with ice before we went, and we brought enough meals to get us through the weekend. We ate just about all of our food. Mm-hmm. There's a couple small things that we didn't, but we went through all our food, so that went out pretty well. I mean, we cook our meals at home, so we just kind of planned in that direction. Mm-hmm. We did have to get a midday ice run on Saturday because it was so hot. And in between meals, we would cover the cooler with a wool blanket because it's not a super cooler. It's just a beater we got from a yard sale. So it's not fantastic, but it kept everything cool enough with an extra bag of ice. And then we brought a 5-gallon jug of water with ice in it too. We didn't get anywhere near through that. So that was nice. And I think that's pretty much it. We forgot pillows, or I forgot pillows because I did most of the packing. And I thought we'd be okay once I realized we'd forgotten them. But looking back, I wish I would have had a pillow instead of just a rolled up wool blanket.
Yeah. I was okay on the rolled up wool blanket for a pillow. Okay. But I like a pretty flat pillow anyway. Yeah. You like a big fluffy pillow?
I like a big fluffy pillow.
Yeah.
I got a big noggin.
And then Caroline doesn't care. She sleeps on my arm as a pillow.
Yeah, Caroline doesn't care about a whole lot.
Yeah.
The tent we got did come with a poly or plastic tarp to go underneath the ground cloth. And that's something that, depending on the kind of event you're going to, is something to consider. Because, if you're going to a super immersive event, they might not permit that. But this...
They wouldn't permit a ground cloth?
Or a tarp underneath it. So like if you're going on a really juried historic trek or something, they might just limit you to purely 18th century stuff.
So would people have put some kind of like canvas under?
Yeah, just that canvas cloth that we have, that would have been on the ground. And that's where a lot of people sleep, on a cot or something to get up off the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's another sleep system to consider. But that helped a lot with keeping moisture out of the camp, out of the tent. Some still got in because we were just drenched in rain. But that's another little secret tip. Nobody knows the poly tarp is underneath, but it is there and helps. We also heard that lighting a candle in your tent in a safe location keeps the air a little dry, but I'm the son of a fireman, so I'm really hesitant to do that. Something else I wanted to mention real quick as far as planning goes. We brought a pretty sizable box of books and toys for Caroline, fearing that she would be bored and cause trouble and hoot and holler.
I don't think she played with them much at all.
She did not touch that box all weekend, which was great because she found other kids to play with and occupied herself. She loves being outside anyway, so it really worked out. But that was something that we could have eliminated from our tent and would have had a little more space. Not that we were hurting for space.
Yeah, so that would be one less box.
Yeah. And I think for Martin's, I'll just leave that in the van. She can use it on the road, and that'll be it.
I mean, you think you're a toddler. Are you gonna want to play with your toys and books from home, or are you gonna want to do all this like new exciting stuff that you never have before?
Yeah. So we pulled in after school day on Friday. I thought that was going to be a little too much for us. So we came in on Friday night and we stayed until the event ended Sunday. What were your thoughts as we pulled in and started setting up?
Well, I was excited to get the tent up, and Caroline was having fun. I liked the spot that they put us in there on the shooting range. That was a nice little secluded area, a little out of the main drag. And I was a little scared at first because when we were unpacking, we realized that we'd forgotten my bed jacket. I had forgotten Paisley's bed jacket, a crucial part of the woman's wardrobe in the 18th century. We get the tent up, and it's a semi-immersive event, I would say, where they ask that when you have camp set up and during the event, as you set up, as quickly as possible, get set up, get your car out, and get into your 18th century clothes. So we get the tent up. I'm working on stuff outside, and I tell Paisley to go ahead and get dressed in the tent because it's sealed up and everything. And she asks me, "Where's my bed jacket?" And I realized that I left it on the couch at home. And I didn't know what we were going to do in that moment. And I know I do have some anxiety about coming to these events when it comes to my outfit, because I know that some people are really relaxed about your clothing, and I know that some people are pretty particular about it. And I don't want to offend or give anyone the impression that I'm not taking this seriously. So I didn't know what we were going to do. I didn't know if we would try and buy a new one. And you'd suggested, well, what if I just wore my, I think it's called the chemise, the shift underneath, and my petticoat, and I just pinned the scarf. But I was told that your shift is like your underwear. Like, so that would be very offensive for a woman to be wearing out. I still don't know. I'm still learning because Ethan
I have
doesn't
no
know.
help on the female wardrobe.
Right, you just don't know as much about women's clothing.
Yeah.
So I've just been having conversations with women at these events over the past year or so, just kind of slowly trying to put together an outfit. And it was an hour drive home. So if Ethan had went home just for the bed jacket, it would have been 2 hours. And he suggested I wear your waistcoat.
Yeah, that was kind of... I offered to go back home and grab it and pick up anything else. But we tried wearing the waistcoat instead. It was going to be warm anyway, so I wasn't really worried about having the waistcoat.
And I just put my scarf over top of that. So, I mean, that's probably not totally accurate, but I don't know. Maybe it depends who you'd ask. You know, maybe there is a reason that a woman would find herself wearing a man's waistcoat. I don't know. Maybe her husband left her bed jacket at home. I don't know.
I left it in my other carriage.
It's okay.
I felt really bad about that.
No, it's okay. I don't want to bully you.
It was in that moment, though, that I started a series of notes in my notes app on my phone of things that we had forgotten or ideas for next time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I would recommend is, I don't know. When you have a toddler running around, it's really hard to get everything right. Mm-hmm. And we try to give ourselves some forgiveness for that.
Yeah.
And so I have a little list now that maybe we can go over at the end about what we're going to take to Martin Station next weekend as we're recording.
Right. Well, and I understand that event is stricter.
It's more strict.
About your clothing. So that'll be good. We kind of had a little test run at Five Metals.
Yeah.
And no one said anything to me about the waistcoat. And actually I met some women that were really nice and gave me some of their old clothes that they don't wear anymore, and some things for Caroline too. And they wouldn't let me pay them. They just said, no, we don't wear these things. We'd rather just give them to somebody that's going to use them. So it kind of worked out a little bit. Like I was in an opportunity to make some new friendships.
That my leaving that bed jacket, I think, opened up some conversations and some friendships really now.
Yeah, yeah. So I've met three really cool women at the event that talked to me a lot about my clothing and helped me with that, and gave me some things to keep or to borrow for Martin Station.
So that first night we got there and got everything set up and started making dinner. I can't remember what we had, but we got a fire going. And
we had nacho night.
That's right.
We just made a big bowl of rice and beans and ground beef.
One of our favorite meals.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. I mean, that was just, everything was cooked. We put it in the kettle or in the skillet, and that was really nice. It was kind of a meal we were familiar with. And it's always nice, I think, when you're on the road and you can eat food that you eat at home because your tummy doesn't get upset.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sensitive to fried foods. They bother my arthritis, so I try not to eat them when I'm traveling if I can. But it's hard. A lot of fast food and food on the road is fried. So.
Yeah. And by the time we had done that, really, I think more people had trickled in. More of our friends came in. Our buddy Zach came in and set up part of his camp, and then went home to grabbed some things for his wife and his baby, and he came back early in the morning, which was great. I mean, it was nice. We had friends on all sides, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And Zach talked a lot before he left that everybody was so friendly, which was really great to hear. Like he didn't know as many people in that group as we did, and he came away with, I think, a lot of good friends and friendships too. Which was neat.
I hope so.
Neat to hear about.
Yeah. Five Metals, I would say, as a beginner to living history, is a very beginner-friendly event, for sure. Yeah. People there are really accommodating.
I think during that day, to get into some of the details, it was in the upper 70s or low 80s towards the end of the day. That kind of late afternoon sun starts peeking in there and cooks you a little bit. But that night, Caroline just blew past her nap.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were fighting a little bit of a sleepy kid. But by about 9:30 or 10, she was finally ready to go down.
Yeah.
And that was nice. So Paisley and Caroline were able to get a little sleep. But one of the nice things about camping over at an event is kind of the after hours time. You know, it's not that the public takes away from that, but after hours you can just kind of sit down around a campfire or bounce around campfires and just talk. Mm-hmm. And that's when you can really hang out with your friends and really connect with new people.
Unwind, yeah.
And so I think for me, I've done a lot of events over the years where especially with my folks, where we're set up as merchants with a tent or something, selling stuff that we've made. We've driven home just because of the convenience of it. You don't have to bring that much more stuff. But spending that night and staying up late and hanging out, waking up early and hanging out is really nice. I'd really recommend people try to do that if they can. Mm-hmm. But that night it got really cold.
It was very cold that night, and we had 2 wool blankets.
We had 2 wool blankets.
But it just wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. We were pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was pretty cold.
That's a mistake. That's another big mistake on my part. I expected that to be enough, and I really should have brought more. So I'm chalking that up with the bed jacket, and that's another lesson learned. I thought too much about what I take when I go out, and I should have thought about expanding that out. And I'm sorry, Paisley.
Oh, it's okay. I just would have, maybe I would bring long pajamas, long sleeve pants and long sleeve top to sleep in, but, or more blankets, because the next night that it rained so hard and stormed, you had bought 2-3 blankets that day.
Yeah, I found a deal on, and that's one of the nice things about an event like Five Metals is there's not a lot of merchants, but there are people moving things around. You know, they're downsizing or they're transitioning out of the hobby, and we found a deal on 3 good wool blankets, which was really nice. And it was just something like, you know, it's either drive home and get some or buy these now. And I like wool blankets. It doesn't hurt to have a few more.
Well, once we had those, I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
I slept better the night that there was a thunderstorm than the first night. So
that second night, I gave Paisley the 2 blankets that I had kind of in my trekking kit that we packed for her and Caroline, and then I took a 3rd blanket just on me and rolled up that second one as kind of a backup. I used it as a pillow because I wanted a thicker pillow, but we ended up not needing to unroll it to make a kind of a 4th blanket out of there. So I think another tip would be to overpack your blankets, especially if it's your first time going out with your family.
And then also, even if you think it's going to be warm weather, you could be surprised. It could be colder at some part of the day, or like today was colder than I was expecting. So I wish I'd brought maybe some long pants for Caroline to wear under her shift.
And Caroline's kind of at a phase right now. I mean, I guess she might be embarrassed later, but she doesn't like to wear clothes right now.
Yeah,
when she's outside, she wants just to run around bare naked and
she's surprisingly cold resistant.
Yeah.
I don't know. We try and keep clothes on her and she resists. So that, you know, she was fine. She wasn't too cold.
Yeah, like this morning we woke up and everything was pretty damp because of the rain. and
We just kept her wrapped in a blanket.
we kept her wrapped in a blanket. We had a couple of her shirts on. We had a Caroline-sized shirt, a Paisley-sized shirt on, and then her period dress. So she wasn't taking away from the look of the event at all. And she was able to be warm. And then we just wrap, one of us carrying her when she wanted to be carried, we'd just wrap her in a wool blanket. Mm-hmm. And she was plenty toasty.
Oh, yeah.
What'd you think, as a newcomer, in your first time camping, what did you think about when the public started coming in? Did you feel like you were on display at a zoo, or were you pretty comfortable?
I was actually pretty comfortable. I don't know. I really didn't actually think about it until just this moment that you mentioned it.
Okay.
Because we weren't putting on any kind of demonstration. We were just there to camp, and some of the visitors come in various types of period dress. So, no, I was comfortable with people.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Have you ever felt that way?
I always felt that way, or always feel that way when I'm doing a demonstration of something.
When they're coming up and talking to you and asking you questions, that does kind of put you more on the spot.
Yeah, and I don't mind that. I really enjoy sharing that stuff. I think part of it for me is it's over 20 years of hanging out with my family and demonstrating on stuff. So like at times I feel a little jaded about it because I'm answering a lot of the same questions. But I remind myself that you never know how somebody's going to engage with this and when they're going to come to that event. The reception that you give people and the way you answer their questions is really crucial to them, to them coming back next year or even camping next year. Mm-hmm. And
I've probably asked you some of those same questions that people in the public have asked you.
Right, but it's good. It's good to ask those questions. Yeah. And I think getting back out and like there at the very end, because we were kind of away from the main drag because people would come and look at our camp and our setup, and we were cooking over a fire with a little wood fork deal, real basic, real simple for the period. We had a half a dozen or maybe people through the weekend come and talk to us, but it was really cool to talk to them because I just love when people are interested in this, and I think that's across the board for people, that they just really love that. They love being asked those questions.
Yeah, something I've learned is that people that are interested in living history, whether they're participating or they're just coming to the events, they're all really cool, interesting people.
Yeah.
I've never met a boring person that was into living history yet, and they're all interesting for different reasons, and they all come from different backgrounds and have different reasons why they're into it. But everyone's been really interesting to get to know.
I think that's something I hadn't really considered until we had Caroline, and I guess too when you started coming to the day tripping with me. Seeing all this through Caroline's eyes was just incredible for me.
Oh.
Like, not to overstate it, but it was just really neat because everything was new and interesting to her. I mean, she's seen us in the shop and seen us make stuff. She's watched me shoot and all this stuff, but it was so great to see her running around from camp to camp. And even when it was cold and nasty, she would run up to somebody and peek into their tent or chase their kids around or grab something off their table, after we made sure it was okay. People just lit up, and I think you said earlier that she was a real icebreaker.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes we talk about how we can be introverted.
Yeah.
And it's like Caroline's an extrovert.
Yeah.
So she is an icebreaker. She is a great way to get us talking with people that maybe we wouldn't have before.
Yeah. And that was really great. It's something that we just haven't experienced at an event yet because we just haven't gone like this as a family before. It was really a lot of fun. It was neat. Like at an event like Five Metals, there were a ton of kids there.
There were.
What'd you think about that? Sorry to interrupt you after I just asked you a question, but a lot of people remarked to me that there were a lot more kids this year than there were last year.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought the same thing. When we first got there, that first night that we set up, that's one of the first things I thought, how many kids were there compared to last year when we just day tripped it. And they were all running around playing together and cooking up schemes. Like they were putting on puppet shows at one point. That was kind of funny. They were putting on puppet shows for tips.
I wonder if they got that idea from Punch and Judy's presentation.
I would think so.
About in history the puppeteers would ask for tips.
Right? Because yeah, that's what the demonstrator for Punch and Judy said, was that the puppet show would go town to town, and that's how they made their living. It was just off the tips.
Yeah.
So it's like you can kind of watch the show for free, but you're a little bit expected, if you enjoyed it, to give some money.
And these kids then were trying that.
I watched their puppets. Because Caroline ran over there, and she's little. She was the youngest kid there. I think the next kid up was probably maybe 4. So Caroline's not talking yet. She's a baby. And so whenever she would run up to them, they'd be like, "Whose baby is this?" So, and I would just kind of be her shadow, making sure she didn't hurt herself or get lost or something. So, but yeah, I watched their puppet show. I told them, like, well, I don't have any money on me, so I can't tip you. And they're like, that's okay. Will you just watch? So I said, sure. So I watched their puppet show. It was cool. It was pretty cool.
It was neat. As first-time parents, we're not pros by any means, but it was really nice when we were around camp or cooking dinner or something. Caroline would just kind of wander off within eye shot. Like, we never let her get behind anything or go somewhere she shouldn't. But everybody around was really great to Caroline.
Oh yeah.
I mean, people that we didn't know, they would play with her, they would show her things, and it was nice to kind of get a little breather.
Yeah.
You could just out of the one side of your eye as you're talking to somebody, you could see that she was having fun. Mm-hmm. And doing something new, because mom and dad can get boring, I think.
Yeah. So that was nice having.
It's kind of a camp family.
Yeah, people talk about having a village when it comes to parenting, and that felt like a village.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing about the weekend?
My favorite thing about the whole weekend? Oh man, let me think. Well, I would just say in general, just getting to spend time with our friends, our old friends, and the new friends that I made. Which I guess is, again, I'm an introverted person, so that's kind of funny. It's funny for me, kind of finding my people. I thought I didn't have people. So it's really nice getting out and just having a good time with people and having good conversations and being away from your phone constantly and the news and work and just having time to just be outside and slow down and cook your food over a fire and hang out with your baby. And then I guess if I had a more specific favorite thing is I've had this personal mission to try and understand how did women breastfeed in these clothes, because I breastfeed Caroline, and when I first started putting on the period clothing, it was just pinned together with a bunch of pins, and it was so stressful at first because it's hard for me to be pinning and unpinning this bed jacket all the time, especially having arthritis with these tiny little pins. And then Caroline would be sticking herself on the pin when she was trying to breastfeed, and she'd cry, and I was just like, how did women do this? This is like, I can't believe that women were trying to breastfeed children in these clothes. And I met a woman who told me, oh yeah, they had all these things. They had pregnancy stays, they had breastfeeding stays, and women would do this or do that, and they would have different types of shifts on. Like the type of shift that I was wearing didn't have like an adjustable collar, and they said, oh yeah, breastfeeding women, there was like a drawstring kind of thing in the collar. So that was awesome, because I felt like, okay, finally, I am finding people who have all the answers, because I've been searching on that topic a little up until this point, and I've already, some other women have told me like, oh, here's my little tip or my trick for what I did with my baby, and some of it was like maybe period accurate, and some of it maybe wasn't period accurate. So, but this was the first time someone was very knowledgeable on all these types of things that women wore in the period, and I didn't even know that they made stays.
I had no idea
for that, and I don't think there's anywhere to buy them today. I think you'd probably have to make something like that yourself, or maybe adjust an existing one. So that was very satisfying to me. It was like, meeting some other women who also had been doing this for a long time and breastfeeding their kids, and giving some tips on mothering in this clothing.
Yeah, I think kind of chasing Caroline around and watching you talk with women and bounce around camps there like you were, it was really great. Because I can't help. Muzzleloaders, men's clothing, I understand a little bit more about now, but it was just totally out of my realm. And I forgot the bed jacket, and I already felt terrible, but I felt like being there overnight, through the whole weekend, it really opened up a lot of doors where we were able just to start getting into some of those deeper conversations about stuff. Because when you day trip, there's a lot of just catching up, this and that. Like, you connect with people online, but it's still not the same as talking in person and hanging around a campfire at an event. And being there through the weekend, we were able just to spend so much time because we weren't on the clock. It wasn't, okay, we need to time this so that we get back in the car at Caroline's nap time, or she's going to get fussy, or we have to, try to keep to a little bit of the routine. It was just, let's dive in.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just embracing that and letting go of the routine, because Caroline has her little routine at home. But when you're away from home and you're in a new place and you're sleeping in a tent outside and spending the day with all these people, and there's oxen walking around, and
there's blacksmiths, there's chocolatiers, there's a battle going on, there's cannon fire, there's musicians.
It's just, I should have just given up on her routine the second we stepped foot in the 18th century. Because, she didn't take her nap at the usual time. She didn't go to bed at the usual time, but that was okay.
Yeah.
I just should have just leaned right into it. She did really well with the cannon fire, actually. Yeah, she actually...
I think she's my kid.
Yeah, we went over there to see the battle, and she laughed when the cannon went off. So I was happy about that. I was happy it didn't scare her. Although she did get a little spooked. The Punch and Judy show had an alligator puppet.
Oh, yes.
She was a little spooked by the alligator.
That was so good. I think it's probably been 10 years since I watched a Punch and Judy show. And it was so funny for me as an adult. I really enjoyed it. But then seeing her react to it the way she did was just wonderful.
Yeah.
That show is so well put on. The kids in the audience were laughing. A lot of the parents were laughing. That was a nice little break for her to sit down, and I can't believe she sat down and watched the whole thing, because I thought we're going to have to run away with her so she doesn't disrupt anybody. And
then she went back and watched
another one.
Watched another show. So, she really liked it.
She was laughing, and it was that was really great. Having entertainment there for kids was so wonderful. And as a parent now, I really appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
I want to run through my list and maybe compare it to something that you have, Paige, if you have any ideas. So the first thing on my list is Paisley's bed jacket, of course. I can't forget that.
Well, I'll help next time.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I will do an outfit check.
We cannot drive home from Martin Station and pick something up that we forgot, so we're gonna triple check. Pillows. We don't need to tough it out. I can bring a pillow. It's okay. The next thing, really, there's a couple different ways you can go. You can get a brazier, which is nice. People debate about period accuracy with it, but you might be in an area that you have a fire ban or a restriction on open fires. So having a brazier can be handy. Here, this was held at the Stone Trace Regulators Club, but they asked that we dig a fire pit, and I totally spaced on that, being used to smaller kind of private land events. I didn't bring a shovel, and I've got a period shovel that my father and I made. I think we've got a brazier somewhere, so that's something I've got written down for next time, to bring a shovel or a brazier or both. If it just sits in the van, that's okay. We don't have to get everything out. I ended up borrowing a shovel and met some new friends, which was great, so it worked out in the end, of course. The next thing I've got is dish cleaning supplies. I just used a linen rag and some soap and hot water, but something like a brush, or even just, it's modern, but some steel wool with this, soap, or just plain steel wool would have helped. But we cook on cast iron a lot. Getting it wet and hot really cleaned up nice, but sometimes that convenience can help a little bit. Warm clothes, of course. Just bringing some extra sweaters and things for Paisley and Caroline. Then I had a note in here for tinder. I ended up splitting out some smaller chunks of wood to get fires going, but I've got plenty of scrap wood at the house at the farm. It'd be really easy just to bring a bucket of that, just to make it a little easier. Caroline and Paisley stayed in bed a little bit longer, but like this morning when everything was wet and cold, it would have been nice to have a little more dry tinder. I noticed Ryan and Nicole's family, they had cloaks for their kids, and we've got a couple cloaks at home from when me and my sister were younger, and I think that's something just to throw in for the kids and future kids that we have. And then a couple other things for Paisley, like a second skirt, a second chemise, and maybe even in the future look at getting a wool bed jacket to kind of layer up and add to that, because some of the conversations you were having, one thing I thought was interesting was women would wear multiple layers of the skirts and the bed jackets to show that they had multiples, like they could afford it.
Yeah, that was something that I guess lower class women would sometimes do, is they would wear multiple skirts and pin them so that people could see all three of them, just as like a show of wealth, like a status, which I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would do that. That sounds very heavy and hot.
Heavy and hot.
I think if you're going to bring an air mattress, you should bring an air mattress repair kit.
Thank you.
Because Caroline stuck my hat pin right through the air mattress.
So on our last stop for supplies before we left, I saw it. I saw the air mattress repair kit, and I thought, odds are I might need that. And we did. So we patched it up, and we should be good. It wasn't like blasting air out, but
yeah, it wasn't a big hole, but she had just seen me pinning my hat, and she wants to do everything that she sees me doing, and she was practicing putting the pin through the hat, and she put it through the hat right into the bed. Yeah. And she looked at me so proud that, look, I pinned the hat.
I did it, Mama.
I did it. I was like, oh no. So that was good. But also it was the last day, thankfully.
Yes.
So we were done sleeping on the air mattress at that point.
Yeah, once we found where it was or the holes, I just deflated the mattress. Anything else?
I don't know. Some little tights or leggings for Caroline, if it's cold.
Yeah, our emergency outfit.
Yeah.
was smaller than we thought it was
Mm-hmm.
in our mom bag. So it sounds like we're horrible at planning, but I swear we really tried to plan. We planned a lot. We missed a few things. I missed a few things.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think we go easy on ourselves. We have a 2-year-old. Well, even if you don't have a 2-year-old, go easy on yourself. Life's too hard. This world's thrown enough at you. You don't need to throw stuff at yourself, too.
So we've got 4 days before we leave for Martin Station.
Mm-hmm.
What's your game plan?
Double check my outfit. I'm going to go through some of those clothes that I got from those cool women and see how I can add them to my outfit. Make sure everything's looking right. Get a little work done before we go, my illustration work, because I brought my iPad and my sketchbook thinking that I'd have more downtime to work over at Five Metals, but I didn't. We were just running around, having fun. We were doing something almost the whole time. So, I think I'm not going to try and plan that, I'm going to get some work done there. No, don't do that. Just have fun.
Get the work done ahead of time.
Yeah, get my work done at home and then clock out for the weekend.
I think that's all I've got.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I can't thank you both enough for doing it with me.
Ooh, maybe some vegetables.
More vegetables.
We got to bring some vegetables this time. Yeah, I had fun. Thank you for bringing me. And,
thank you for kind of doing this little walkthrough of it too.
Yeah, and I feel less anxious for Martin Station now that we did a closer to home test run.
Yeah, I think kind of in closing, whether you are like us or like me and you've done it for a while, but you're doing it in a kind of a new way with your family, or you're just wanting to jump in with your family, I think my advice would be to find a smaller local event.
Yeah.
And go to, and
if there is some emergency or something really important you forgot, if you're closer to home, it's not as big of a deal.
Yeah, like if Caroline just really didn't like it.
If she was miserable and really needed to go home, we could have.
Yeah. And that's a nice little security buffer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Paisley.
Oh, I hope this has been helpful.
I hope so. I think it will be.
Is this going to be on the podcast?
Yeah.
Wow, my podcast debut.
Your podcast debut.
I hope everyone's nice to me in the comments.
I'm sure they will be. Everybody's always really nice in the comments.
Yep. I'll see you there. I'll see you guys in the comments.
Careful, she'll reply.
Once again, I'd like to thank Paisley for taking a step a little bit out of her comfort zone here to hang out and talk with us on the podcast. I hope that you were able to glean a little information and maybe get a few tips and tricks to start planning your own family trip out to a living history reenactment or event like this. We knew quite a few people at this event. It's a fairly local event for us, but I will say that even if you don't know people at an event like this, if you don't have a YouTube channel like I do and you're not active in the community like I have been in the past few years here especially, you're going to meet people and you're going to hang out with people and you're going to make new friends regardless. There were a ton of people at this event we didn't know from anybody on the street, and we came home, I think, with new family friends and future lifelong relationships. So keep that in mind. If you're a little nervous about getting out there, try to find a local event in your area and take the plunge. Get out there and try it. See what you need to have. Get your ducks in a row. Load up your family and get out there and try this. You're going to love it. Once again, I'm Ethan. I Love Muzzleloading. We'll have more information about this event as well as our experience at ilovemuzzleloading.com with the associated video and article that go along with this podcast.